Since the early 2000s, two of the biggest titans in the video game industry, Sony and Microsoft, were doing battle releasing different consoles, video games, exclusives, you name it, and this era was known as the console wars. For a very long time, people had different debates about who were winning the console wars. Was it Microsoft? Was it Sony? And in 2018, I do believe that the console wars were not only ended, but won by a very wide margin, and that victor being the king of PlayStation, Sony Entertainment. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is D3Structive Dude, and today I am giving you a deep dive on the year of 2018, what it means to gaming, and how Sony wound up winning the console wars single-handedly, without a doubt in my mind. Now, before we dive right into 2018, we need to have a quick recap of the years prior. You see, Sony and Microsoft were doing battle since the 6th generation of consoles, that being the original Xbox and the PS2. Both of these systems offered a different array of games and abilities to the different players that were using them. The PS2 had one of the biggest, largest, and most wide variety of gaming libraries in the history of the industry, whereas the Xbox was an innovator for multiplayer gaming, bringing us things like Xbox Live, as well as some really good first-party exclusives, things like Oddworld and, of course, the Halo franchise. Moving into the 7th generation, the PS3 and the Xbox 360, the Xbox 360 streamlined and mainstreamed what multiplayer gaming meant to the console world, a thing that was only really revolutionized that of PC, but now consoles had the ability to be these incredible multiplayer gaming machines. Some of the best first-party exclusives of that time came from the multiplayer era that the Xbox 360 had. In comparison, Sony's PlayStation 3 offered a very wide array of story-enriched video gaming. Some of the coolest and most cinematic blockbuster shots in all of gaming came from the PS3. Whether it be Uncharted 2 or Heavy Rain, or even God of War 3, some of these moments were encapsulated on this console, giving gamers two very distinct ideologies. Xbox, which was going for a very heavy multiplayer focus, or of course Sony, who was trying to drive home story enrichment and show gamers what the true power of these consoles could bring. Fast forward to 2014, and we have the 8th generation of gaming consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. The biggest tale of the tape here is that the Xbox One really dropped the ball, and Microsoft did not produce as many first-party exclusives as we were used to. The original Xbox and, of course, the Xbox 360 were home to many first-party exclusive titles, but the Xbox One really dragged behind, and that showed prominently in the year 2018, the year that Sony solidified their victory. The list of the first-party titles is only 3 deep when it comes to the Xbox One in 2018. Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, and Forza Horizon 4. We will touch more on those titles later in this video, but for retrospective, the Xbox One leading into the end of 2018 and into 2019 had sold only 41 million units worldwide, in comparison to that of the Sony PS4, which sold 91 million by the end of 2018. Even though 2018 was a massive year for Sony for their massive lineup of first-party exclusives, which we will talk about later, they also brought in many exclusives even before 2018, solidifying themselves as the place to play these single-player games. In addition to that, they also had better graphics power on their console. The PlayStation 4 running games natively at 1080p 30, while the Xbox One in comparison was running games at 900p 30. While these comparisons graphically are very minute to the untrained eye, take a look at this side-by-side footage of Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that released on both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. You can see just from these gameplay alone that the PlayStation 4 was much more powerful than that of the Sony console, and since this was in 2018 when this game came out, and additionally these 4 years leading up to the launch of the 2018 roster of games, crossplay wasn't very prominent yet. Fortnite, the game that really made crossplay popular, allowing you to sync up with players from PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and even the Nintendo Switch, was just getting started in 2017 and leading into 2018. So at this point, people were buying video game consoles for console exclusives, and the lack of console exclusives on the original Xbox One could have led to the low sales numbers in comparison to the PlayStation 4 by almost 50 million. These 3 first-party titles from Xbox were also not very well received, outside of Forza Horizon 4, the clear outlier, getting a Metacritic 92 and an average user score of 8.4, but both Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 were in the mid to high 60s and the mid averages of 5.7, 5.8 respectively on Metacritic, a very well-trusted site, if I'm being honest, for game reviews. Forza Horizon 4 being this massive outlier was was a positive note for Xbox. However, Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 performed pretty terribly. Both of these games were live service games, a topic we've covered on this channel before, and when you release the live service games, you need to be able to have content within them, especially considering at this time, first-party exclusives were driving console sales. Both of these games, State of Decay 2 and Sea of Thieves, lacked the content necessary to drive more people to pick up this console. In addition, when you have very bad first-party exclusives and a underperforming console graphically under the hardware, you're not going to see these numbers boost up, which is why 2018 is the year that Sony took over. Meanwhile, on the other side of the aisle, Sony had one of their, if not their best lineup of first-party games in the history of the company's existence. Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man, one of the most influential games of all time, starts the top of this list. It was one of the best superhero games ever made even to this day in 2025, selling over 33 million units. It was Time Magazine's second best video game of 2018, and in the entire history of the United Kingdom, it became the fastest selling video game ever. Subsequently, some inherent lore, if you did not know, Sunset Overdrive was also a game that Insomniac made back in 2014, which was an exclusive to the Xbox One, and now having jumped shipped over to Sony's PlayStation 4, made an incredible game that would drive up market sales in the future, having sequels known as Miles Morales and of course Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which came out 2 years ago. Detroit Become Human became one of the fastest selling RPGs of all time. It sold 1 million units in its first 2 weeks, and 2 months after the release, over 1.5 million players had logged in to play this game. The drive and the want to play Detroit Become Human became irresistible, where minor conversational changes could change your entire outcome of your playthrough, sparking a roguelike situation where you could have different playthroughs entirely based on just small changes. This drove numbers very high. Detroit Become Human was nominated for 23 different awards in 2018, including a Best Video Game of the Year, Best Performer, and RPG of the Year. The craziest part of this list is we are only 2 games into some of the best first-party games that Sony ever released on the PlayStation 4, and they came out in the same year. This list alone of just 2 games would set aside Sony as having a better year than Microsoft almost every single year. But the reason that this year was the nail in the coffin for video gaming for Sony, for the console wars, is these next 2 games on this list were absolutely home run smash hits that cannot be denied. Shadow of the Colossus had its massive remake released in 2018, the remake of the 2005 PS2 game that had reworked controls, insane ultra-high definition art assets, and sold 73% more copies than its original launch in 2005. In addition to this, game review companies loved the hell out of this game. It received multiple 9 out of 10s from IGN, Polygon, GameSpot, and Game Informer, and even a 10 out of 10 by Destructoid. This game separated Sony from the rest of the pack, showing that their remakes and their large catalog of games from the 6th generation of console could be remade at any time, to show you that anytime we need a massive story game, Sony was right there to pick up the ball and run with it. 3 games into this list, and you're sitting there thinking, how did Sony not absolutely thrash Microsoft? How does Microsoft even come back? And we haven't even talked about the biggest game of the year, the game that would solidify Sony as the powerhouse for single-player narrative experiences, the game that would go on to win Game of the Year in 2018 and would spark one of the biggest sequels in video game history. That, of course, is God of War 2018 became one of the fastest-selling video games of all time. Following the story of Kratos in a brand new mythology, this sold 35% more units than God of War 3 on the PS3. Within 3 days, God of War 2018 sold 3.1 million units worldwide, cementing itself as the fastest-selling PS4 exclusive. One of the most intriguing pieces about Sony's lore in the last few years is their ability to now put games onto Steam. They are still releasing console exclusives, which we will talk about here in a minute, but for reference, God of War 2018 is now available on Steam, and since November of 2022, 4 full years after the release of the game, and now having its Steam PC release, it has accumulated 23+ million sales worldwide. 2018 was not just a massive year for Sony, it was also a massive year in video gaming history, and God of War cemented itself ahead above all else by winning Game of the Year in 2018 over titans like Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man 2018, Monster Hunter World, and of course one of the best indie games of all time, Celeste. This lineup of games, the amount of console sales, solidified Sony as the direct winners of the console war. And since 2018, Microsoft and Sony have parted and done two different complete 180s on how they're working the video game market. Both of them have launched new consoles, leading us into the 9th generation, both the Xbox Series X and S, and of course the PlayStation 5. Since the time of recording, the PlayStation 5 has sold 75 million units in comparison to the Xbox Series X and S selling about 32 million. And since this fateful year, the year that Sony solidified themselves as the winner, Microsoft has taken a brand new approach. What does that approach kind of look like, you may ask? Well, let me break this down for you. In the mid-2010s, Xbox introduced a brand new subscription service called Xbox Game Pass, allowing gamers to pay a subscription fee every month to get an unlimited access of their Xbox library, both old games, new games, and games in between. Now, in 2019, a new off-branch of the subscription service was released called PC Game Pass, allowing PC players to experience the same subscription service as the console players and also get access to brand new releases. Just this year, PC Game Pass subscribers have had instant access to massive hits like Expedition 33, Grounded 2, and of course, potential Game of the Year, Hollow Knight Silksong. Microsoft has not only been focusing on PC Game Pass, but also making sure that their first-party exclusives get put on Steam as well, making a united front to get every and all eyes onto their products to maximize the amount of people playing their games. Again, Microsoft's motto lately has really been uniting gaming as a whole, making it accessible to everyone. On the flip side, like I mentioned with God of War 2018, Sony still capitalizes and maximizes on console exclusives. Games like Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, and Spider-Man 2, while getting PC releases, still remain on the PlayStation 5 console for a full year, instilling FOMO into buyers into wanting to purchase a PlayStation 5 so they do not miss out on very good content. In one of the craziest swings in video game history, Microsoft and Sony in the year 2025 are now working together, seemingly ending the console wars themselves, even though in my opinion it's been over for about 7 years. Earlier this month, Gears of War Reloaded was released onto the PlayStation 5. Day one, a first-party Xbox exclusive seemingly put on PlayStation 5 for no additional cost. In comparison, Helldivers 2, a massive indie game over the last year, which has a PC release but was also console exclusive to the PlayStation 5, released onto Xbox earlier this month, as well as having a brand new war bond inspired by Halo 3 ODST, including armor and weapons from the beloved Halo franchise. That means right now today on your Xbox, you can play PlayStation games, and on your PlayStation, you can play Gears of War, and of course, Halo. And that's not all. There are rumors, albeit speculative, that there will be PlayStation games releasing on Xbox in the near future. 2018 was a crazy year for video games in general, but overall it solidified itself as Sony being the single winner of the console wars. And before you put it in the comment section, I do not want to hear anything about Nintendo. You know my thoughts on Nintendo, and I do not want to hear them. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought of this console war debate. Do you guys believe that Sony won in 2018? Do you believe that Microsoft still has a chance, and if they're winning right now? And if you guys are big on Microsoft and you're big on Halo like myself, YouTube believes that you will enjoy this video that I made last week talking about the rise and fall of the Halo franchise. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe to the channel, ding the notification bell so you never miss a Wednesday upload, and comment down below who your console war winner is. And until next time, I'm D3. Peace.